106 at a cost of 30 cents, as well as listening on your radio across News Talk. You can watch us if you'd like on the live streams on YouTube and Facebook. Just a reminder what's coming up on the show. Arena Buckley at Croke Park to look ahead to the All-Ireland Camogie final at senior level between Cork and Waterford, so we'll check in with her before 5. We'll also hear from the young amateur golfer Alex Maguire, fresh from his appearance at the Open Championship in Liverpool last month. But for the next hour, we're going to talk football and set the scene for the new Premier League season with the ex-Republic of Ireland, Blackburn Rovers, Burnley, Preston, Sheffield United and Sheffield Wednesday midfielder Keith Treacy. Keith, how are you?
I'm very well, how are you?
Good, thanks. You've documented your stay in England extensively before, Keith, but just to maybe give the listeners an insight, what is it like to play in a Premier League game? The level must be serious.
Yeah, the level is serious, and my debut for Blackburn in the Premier League, I think I was 19. I'm fairly sure I was 19. It was the first game of the season under Paul Ince, and you know what Goodison is like. The fans are sort of right on you, so the ball goes out with a throw in. Old school ground, but I loved it, and I didn't know beforehand. I thought even when Paul Ince turned around and said Keith warm up, I thought he was talking to Keith Andrews. So it really did just dawn on me, I'm about to make my Premier League debut at Goodison away, and yeah, you just try and feel yourself into the game. Don't do anything too silly. Definitely don't give the ball away. Just try and feel yourself in. But yeah, it's a very, very high level, and the one thing that I found was just how quick people move the ball and the weight of the pass. Like when you're in training, sometimes the ball comes in and it's like feather passing, but in the game it's really fizzed into you, and I think that's the level. That's the one thing that always separates the really good players from the average players, is just the weight of pass into you.
Because you played at Anfield as well. It was Alonso Mascherano. It was an interesting day, I'd say. Yeah,
it was very interesting because Allardyce was the manager, and I found out on the Friday he had pulled me and said, listen, you're going to play tomorrow. So I had time to ring my mother and father and see if they could come over, but they couldn't make it, so a couple of my friends come over. But it was the anniversary of the Hillsborough disaster as well, so the streets of Liverpool were filled with people on the way to the ground. The atmosphere was building, so that had the feel of a really, really big game. And I started on the right wing. We started Christopher Sam up front. Sam Allardyce started Christopher Sam up front, a centre half who was about 6'4", so you could a little insight into what our tactics were about to be. But we were 1-0 down after about 30 seconds. Torres scored and it got very, very difficult. I think we lost 4-0, and after about 60 minutes both of me cramps calved up as well, so I was really, really struggling. But yeah, it was great. I was running at the deep end, but yeah, absolutely loved it.
Did you find the Championship more physical?
Yeah, the Championship, it's reckless. Like when you like, obviously every training ground, every football team has Sky Sports News on in the background, so when you hear the Premier League players saying, we played Saturday, Tuesday, we're a bit tired, I can't believe the league has done this to us, the Championship players do we just looking at and think it's constant Saturday, Tuesday, and it does no respect. It's 100 miles an hour. Very rarely does anybody take a backward step in the Championship. Even informed players, they just go straight for you. It's no, I'll give them a yard, and it's literally 100%. So yeah, it's a very, very difficult league. The Premier League is obviously a lot more technical. It's a lot more... Yes. It's mentally it drains you a little bit more because people move the ball and try and turn the screw a little bit more. The Championship is a little bit more like the 90s in the Premier League. It's a little bit more back to front and cutthroat. But that's not to say that a lot of people don't play football. There is teams like Vincent Kompany last year with Burnley set the Championship on fire. But two very, very different leagues, but very, very difficult. Both of them very, very difficult to play in. But the Championship, it really is a lottery for who comes out of there. It's just whoever gathers a bit of momentum.
Yeah, we saw Leeds just scored. They're 2-1 down at Cardiff. They were 2-0 down at Elland Road. Liam Cooper's just scored. Daniel Farke has gone in there to Leeds and trying to get them back up. Leicester beat Coventry by 2-1. Good to see Adam Ida score yesterday, late for Norwich.
Yeah, look, it wasn't a beautiful goal whatsoever, but the first game of the season, you love to be able to just get off the score, get off the mark as a goal scorer, and Adam's done that. It wasn't a thing of beauty, it was just a little bit of a toe poke, a melee in the box, but look, it'll give him confidence, and that's what we want going into the Irish game soon enough. So I know we have Evan Ferguson, a lot of weight has been put on his shoulders, but if we can get the likes of Adam Ida scoring goals as well, and they could just take a little bit of the weight off Evan, then I think we're getting the bones of a very decent international teams all of a sudden.
What do you want to see from Evan in terms of his development with Brighton this season?
Well, to be fair, it's very, very hard to start picking holes in his game because he is really that good, and it's very rare I would say that, but look, he's under a brilliant manager. De Zerbi knows exactly what he's doing. You know, when Potter left Brighton, a lot of people were thinking, what is De Zerbi going to be like? But he's come in, and the things you hear in the background, he's very, very tactically aware, very good with the lads. So, look, Evan, physically, he's already really, you know, he's physically a man. He doesn't look like a teenager. His finishing ability is decent. Maybe a little bit on his left foot, he could try a little bit, because you know when a striker can go both ways, it's very, very difficult to try and manoeuvre him into places. But look, there's obviously room for improvement. But he's a class player, and I hate saying it to him, because I feel like I've been in this position where the media start getting behind you and putting weight on you, but it's very hard to shy away from him being an excellent Premier League player already at this age.
You have to think he's one of the best teenagers in Europe.
Yeah,
think about it. Yeah,
it is. It's difficult, because, like I say, he's a man, and even the French game when France came to the Aviva, I know he got beat on the night, but up against Upamecano is one of the best centre halves in and around Europe, and Evan Ferguson only dipping his toe into the water, and physically brilliant against him, ran the challenge against him, and didn't look out of place whatsoever. So, yeah, the sky's the limit for Evan. It really is.
Is the standard of football as high as you've ever seen it?
Possibly, yeah. I think that the game's changed an awful lot. You know, the game sometimes now it's a lot more possession based from top to bottom. I think clubs are a little bit samey now. You know, even Burnley now. When you look at Burnley coming into the Premier League, I think we all know that they're going to try and play football. Manchester City are going to play football. 9 out of 10 teams now will try and play football. And for me, I don't think that's the only way you can win a game of football. I think anybody who goes toe to toe with the likes of a Manchester City and Arsenal, I think it's quite silly if you're not a top team. So I think the ways to beat them teams are to get it into areas, condensed.
Like Brentford did last year, be a bit aerial.
Exactly, yeah. You know, if these teams are outstanding at that, and you're saying, well, we want to play that way as well. Okay, we want to play that way, but how do we beat them today? The way to beat them today is do what they don't want and turn them around, get them playing the horrible stuff. Don't let them get in a rhythm. And sometimes fans can say, oh, but we want to see the sexy football, we want to win that way. Well, the players want to win, and the best way to win is sometimes just counteract what they're doing. And the big thing for me, everybody talks about the press now, and then there's the counter press. If a team is going to stand on the halfway line and try and counter press you, you have 50 yards of grass in behind them, so why not get them running that way and then play from there? And look, it's probably a byproduct of me playing for Sam Allardyce and, you know, managers like that, but I just think that if teams are going to stand on the halfway line, you back them off, and the way to back them off is to chip the ball over the head.
We even saw with Argentina, Saudi Arabia in the Mad World Cup game, you know.
Yeah, and look, I get it. Look, if I'm Pep Guardiola, there's no way I'm telling Manchester City to put the ball into the channels and get running after it. But you know, it's horses for courses. If you don't have a Manchester City team, then you have to play a different way. And you know, not everybody can keep the ball and do this tic-tac style of football.
Yeah.
You know,
and sometimes City have to improvise and they have to dig it out, as they did against Real Madrid in that Champions League.
Even you think of Gundogan's goal in the FA Cup final. It's literally one long ball, second ball, bang. It's a beautiful volley, but there's no intricate build-up play. There's none of that. It's just a beautiful volley from the edge of the box and picking up second balls. That's the basics of the game, are picking up second balls, and City did that, and they get a goal from it.
They're kicking off the Community Shield against Arsenal at 4 o'clock. Both teams are strong, with Rice in the Arsenal team and Kovacic into the City team. Is there any reason to believe City won't be as strong as they were last season when they won the treble, Keith?
No, I'm an Arsenal fan, and I'm trying to pick holes in Manchester City.
You're speaking to Spurs fan here now.
Oh, so. Here we go. I know, look, I won't hold it against you, but look, I think I'm trying to pick holes in this Manchester City team. I think Gundogan, I'm trying to convince myself he's going to be a miss. Last season when Cancelo went to Bayern Munich, I was trying to convince myself they'll miss him. They just don't seem to miss anybody. And with Guardiola coming in, the centre half, the Croatian centre half, I think he's a brilliant boy. I know 70 million's a decent amount of money, but he's as close to a sure thing hitting the ground as you can get. With Haaland, Kovacic coming in, he's not one of these lads that you're thinking, oh my god, that's a brilliant signing, but he's somebody that is just solid and will play well, like he does for Croatia with Modric. He just shores everything up, keeps it nice and tidy, very rarely makes a mistake or gives the ball away. So Bernardo Silva staying at Manchester City, I think, is a big one. He was flirting with Barcelona for a while, but with Mahrez going out and Gundogan, I don't think they could afford to let maybe one or maybe two more go. So yeah, and even Kyle Walker, if he's flirting with Bayern Munich,
plays today,
he plays today. So look, I still think City will win it. I think Arsenal not having European football last season obviously helped them. With them being in the Champions League this season, I don't think they can compete on both fronts.
Have they strengthened enough then? Possibly not.
Possibly not. No, I still think with the bench, you look at the bench today, Trossard's on the bench and he's the only one that you're thinking, yeah, he can maybe change the game. Vieira, good young player. Rob Holding, he's been at Arsenal for years, but you know, this is what I mean. There's Eddie Nketiah, young player, really like him, did well when Jesus was injured, but is he somebody who's going to lead the line and challenge Manchester City? Probably not. Kieran Tierney, I love him, thought he was excellent at Celtic, but again, is he somebody who's going to start time and time at left back? Not really. And you look with Arteta, it looks like Timber's going to start left back and Ben White is going to play right back. So Kieran Tierney must be thinking, you're playing a right back, left back ahead of me, where am I in all of this?
He's gone.
Yeah, I just think the bench could be Arsenal.
They won 16 of their first 19 games last season. They went on a great run. It's just hard to, they'll have to just get the best out of Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli as they did last year. They had 44 goals between the three of them. Jesus is injured again. Havertz, how many goals is he realistically going to score? You know, Rice is a great addition, but is enough to win the title? Not so sure.
Yeah, look, a lot of people have said it's a lot of money for Declan Rice because he is an essentially a defensive midfield player. He doesn't give you an awful lot going forward. There was it on occasion with West Ham, sometimes with England, when he's on the edge of his own 18-yard box and he's screening the back four or back three and he wins the ball, and in the blink of an eye he's on the edge of the other 18-yard box and he's making things happen. So I'm hoping that Arteta is telling them, we want that, we need that from you, we want you in a defensive position, but when you pick it up, Thomas Partey will be around you, we'll have cover around you, so you can gallop into that ground and get Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard on the ball. And again, with Martinelli, Odegaard and Saka, absolutely brilliant last season, unbelievable, all three of them. But I just think with their age, with you know, they're not, are they going to be robust again? Because this is probably their second full season now, have been heavily relying on. Saka played an awful lot for England as well. I think these lads were getting tired. Martinelli was getting tired, and Jesus, if we could keep him fit, then you know, you're thinking maybe we could. But Havertz, great player. Is he going to hit the back of the net 20 times this season? No. I seriously doubt it. So yeah, look, I think Arsenal have improved, but I still think City.
Are they number 2 Arsenal, or maybe Liverpool number 2, or another team?
I would go Arsenal at this early stage. I would go Arsenal number 2, but it depends. If they go deep into the Champions League, I think the Premier League will suffer because of that, and if they get knocked out of the Champions League, then I think the Premier League will obviously be a little bit better because of that. So it's all ifs and buts until Europe starts taking shape. But at this early stage, I still think City, I mean, what was it, they hammered Arsenal 4-0 towards the end of the season last season, so I still think there is a bit of a gap between City and the rest, but Arsenal for me are probably number 2.
Haaland, 36 goals last season. You know, if he stays fit again, that's the key, isn't it, really? Yeah,
it's crazy, isn't it? Because he's absolutely changed the standard of what we think is a striker with 36 goals last season, so many in the Champions League as well. And people are saying with Rasmus Højlund going into Manchester United, what's he going to be like, Keith? And you're thinking, he probably score 10 to 15 goals a season, and they're going, he's no good. And you're thinking, that's a very good return for somebody in their first league in the Premier League, especially at a young age. But Haaland is just on a different planet, an absolutely different planet. So I wouldn't be setting him as the bar for strikers whatsoever. So I think Højlund with United, they bought an awful lot of potential, but when you think Haaland only cost, what was it, City, 50 million, and Højlund cost
72. That's a lot of money. Crazy, for a guy who scored 9 goals for Atalanta last season, who's 20 years of age, who is not on the tip of everybody's tongue. Is it almost like a panic buy because they know they're not going to get Harry Kane? I don't know if that's great business. Can you work out Mason Mount as a player either? Because I can't work him out.
Well, the Chelsea fan seems to really love him. I know he was demanding really high wages, and that was sort of turned everybody a little bit sour, and now he's turned his attention to United. But look, Mount is a great player. I think he's a decent player. He can play on the half turn. Is he somebody that gets United closer to the top 3, top 4? I'm not so sure. I think he's decent, but I don't think he's somebody that get you on the edge of your seat and think, he's one of the best young players in Europe. I'm not too sure, but like I said, Chelsea fans seem to hold him in really high regard. So it's something that could happen. And just while we're on Manchester United, something that really excites me is Anthony Elanga going to Nottingham Forest. Really liked Elanga when he came into Manchester United. So him going to Forest, if he can find his feet there, I think that could be a decent little move for him.
With United, I think if their key players are all fit and playing well, Casemiro, Martinez, Varane, Bruno Fernandes, if he's like on a going day in terms of his mood, Rashford, you can see why they can beat anybody, but once again it's that consistency. You lose 7-0 to Liverpool. I mean, that struck to me as an issue with the character. I think Ten Hag did a huge amount of work with that after the Brentford defeat earlier in the season, but I still think there's a way to go for Man United. Would you agree?
Yeah, I still think they're a little bit off. I think they needed to strengthen defensively. I don't think defensively they're strong enough. all over the park. I know Casemiro has really, really straightened them up, but they're so reliant on him. If Casemiro was to get a hamstring injury and miss 2 months of the season, I'd be thinking that would, you know, knock United back a little bit. So they can't be as heavily reliant on Rashford. He can't be so heavily reliant on Casemiro. It has to be more of a team effort. For me, they're a little bit of team individuals. Sometimes Bruno Fernandes is running off doing his own thing, and I think as a team they're decent, but they're a team of individuals at the minute. And Ten Hag is starting to mould them together, but every now and then a little crack appears, like the 7-0 against Liverpool, little things like that. But it is improving, but the rest of the Premier League is improving very, very quickly as well. So yeah, I think if United were to get top 4 and, you know, go deep in the European competition, then I think it'd be a decent season for United.
4 o'clock, 6 minutes, they kick off against Athletic Bilbao in Dublin. In terms of the names that are in the team, Eriksen, Sancho, Maguire, Lindelof, Wan-Bissaka, Van de Beek, blast of the past. Apart from that, I wouldn't know some of them.
No, it's a bit of a spotty Manchester United team. Obviously, I know Tom Heaton. He was there at Burnley with me time at Burnley with him. Very good player. But Harry Maguire there, Lindelof. You know, these are the players. 2 centre halves. Are they going to play? Lindelof maybe in the Premier League? Harry Maguire, I really don't think so. They've turned down a 20 million bid from West Ham already. But Harry Maguire just needs to play football because he's an English international and he won't want to be given that up easily. And if he goes and sits on the bench for another season at Manchester United,
being stripped of the captaincy was the key sign, though.
Yeah, I think everybody knows. I'm sure Ten Hag has had a word in his ear and said, listen, if you can find a decent move and it meets up well, then we'll all let it happen. But yeah, I don't know whether Harry's just happy having, you know, the Manchester United next to his name and is going to just, you know, sit there and waste away. I hope not. I hope he digs in, gets another club and plays well, because when he was at Leicester, he was a decent centre half. He was showing real promise. I know over his time, you know, it hasn't really worked out, but you look at some of his performances at England, that really deep into World Cup, really deep in the European Championships, there is a decent player in there. I don't think he can be standing on the halfway line and doing all that stuff, but the likes of a West Ham who play a mid to low block, I think you're playing to his strengths then, and he can.
He's an old school English centre half.
Yeah, like if a team's going to start pumping balls into the box, no better man than him. He has a head like a magnet. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So you want somebody like that. He can defend like that, but you know, running into challenge, being exposed for pace, you know, that's the things he's not so good at.
We've got to take a break. Keith Treacy on football here between now and about 4:35. Just go through the teams. Manchester City for the Community Shield kicks off in a few minutes. Ortega in goal, Walker, Stones, Diaz and Akanji, Rodri, Kovacic, Bernardo Silva, Grealish, Alvarez and Haaland. And for the Gunners, also a strong lineup for them at Wembley. Ramsdale in goal, White, Saliba, Gabriel and Timber coming into the team today, as does Declan Rice in the midfield with Partey and Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli and Havertz. The Community Shield look at shadow boxing, but we will learn things between now and 6 o'clock in that one. And just in terms of the Camogie, Derry 1-8, Meath 1-1 at the Croke Park Intermediate final in the All-Ireland Day today. And the Premier Junior decided earlier on, Clare beat Tipperary 3-7 to 1-9. Cork and Waterford throw in at 5 o'clock. And also to let you know, Cardiff City lead Leeds 2-1 in the Championship. Leicester beat Coventry 2-1 earlier on. We're here on Off the Ball after 4 with Keith Treacy previewing the Premier League season. Don't go away.
This weekend on News Talk, we're celebrating summer with Aldi, your go-to destination for the ultimate Irish barbecue fresh meat experience. For your chance to win a €1,000 Aldi gift card, check out newstalk.com/Aldi.
InsureMyVan.ie. Hi, I'm Ken Doherty. For all van drivers and business owners, InsureMyVan.ie is Ireland's low-cost van and commercial insurance specialist. For high-quality van and all commercial insurances, call InsureMyVan.ie.
City Financial Marketing Group Limited, trading as InsureMyVan.ie, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
From family breaks to Mediterranean escapes, make it a summer to remember and discover our best Irish and European hotel deals at gobreaks.ie.
Go Breaks!
Whether it's golfing, gardening or going for a new personal best, at Nurofen we know sometimes body pain can stop you in your tracks. Time for the power of new Nurofen Long Lasting for body pain relief that lasts up to 12 hours day or night. So you keep doing what you're doing and we'll do the long lasting body pain relief. Up to 12 hours pain relief refers to a 2x300mg capsule dose. Nurofen Long Lasting 300mg prolonged release hard capsules contain ibuprofen for backache and muscular pain and period pain. Always read the label.
If golf is your thing, put your teed off with your swing.
more!
Swing by Spawell Golf Academy. Learn how to fade, chip and putt and get out of any rut at Spawell Golf Academy. Want the latest pro golf tech? Top Tracer will keep you in check at Spawell Golf Academy. Or if you're a kid with a dream, winning the Masters on the final green, tap into Spawell Golf Academy, Junction 11 off the M50. For PGA, pro lessons, club repairs and more, search spawellgolfacademy.ie.
Shrink your bill this bank holiday at Dunnes Stores. Enjoy 20% off a fantastic range of wine and champagne, like 19 Crimes and Whispering Angel. Mix and match 3 for €4 on selected treats and drinks, like Tato sharing bags and Pepsi Max 2 litre. Plus, with our 5 off 25 grocery vouchers, you save even more. Shrink your bill at Dunnes Stores. Always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next in-store grocery shop of €25 or more. Voucher excludes alcohol. Please drink sensibly.
Get sorted for the new season with Sky Sports Extra from Virgin Media. Our customers get all the live action from the Premier League by adding Sky Sports, TNT Sports and Premier Sports, all for just €30 a month for 12 months. That's less than half price. Virgin Media. It's playtime.
Terms and conditions apply. See virginmedia.ie.
Follow at Newstalk FM on Instagram for the latest videos from our presenters, reporters and team behind the scenes. Newstalk. Conversation that counts. On 106 to 108 FM, on the Newstalk app, powered by Go Loud and smart speakers. This is Newstalk.
It's 4 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Lindsay Dolan. The funeral of Sinead O'Connor will take place on Tuesday following a cortege along the Bray seafront at 10:30 in the morning. Today, a giant installation honouring the late musician and activist was unveiled on Bray Head. The sign, which reads "Era loves Sinead," was located directly above the World War II navigational landmark and was erected by the creative agency The 10th Man. Executive Creative Director Richard Seabrook explains his inspiration for the piece.
The signs that were put up during the war to remind people that we were Ireland just gave a really amazing opportunity to install something that I think I wanted to tell Sinead that she was loved here, but also remind Ireland of the impact that she has had on the people of Ireland and giving our people and many different people a voice.
Gardaí have seized €200,000 worth of drugs and arrested one man in Blanchardstown in Dublin. Cannabis herb and a substance known as Ziplicline were recovered following the search of a vehicle. A number of posters around Dublin which say crack and heroin use permitted in this area were not authorised by Dublin City Council, according to one councillor. Photographs of the posters, which include the City Council logo, have been shared online. Sinn Féin councillor Dahi Doolan said they're fake and harmful to the ongoing drugs crisis. He said tackling this crisis should be a priority.
I understand people's frustration. I understand communities feel abandoned by this government and by the guards. And what we need is that this government needs to prioritise tackling the causes and consequences of the drugs crisis. It needs to reverse the cuts to local drugs task forces. It needs to greatly increase investment in treatment and rehabilitation. And those people behind this poster should stand shoulder to shoulder with those of us who are making those demands.
And finally, Fleadh na Heron has kicked off in Mullingar. The festival, which is the world's largest annual celebration of Irish music and dance, has returned to the Westmeath town for a second year running. Taoiseach Leo Varadkar officially opened the 8-day event at a ceremony in the town centre this afternoon. This volunteer said Mullingar is ready for another year of Fleadh.
There's so much happening all year. We haven't stopped. Everybody's putting extra into it. Everybody is staying in town. Last year an awful lot of people left the town. Now they realise how good it was. They're all staying in town. It's going to be bigger and better than any other year. Definitely.
And that's your news at 4:02.
Newstalk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Break out the Speedos and hit the beach with Ryanair's low fares to Faro, Ibiza or Malta.
Bright and fresh this afternoon with a mix of sunshine and scattered showers and chance of thunder. Highs of 16 to 20 degrees. Now you're up to date on Newstalk.
Off the ball. This is Newstalk.
And you're welcome to Off the Ball on News Talk for Sunday afternoon. John Duggan sitting in for John Malloy today. We're on air till 6, and the headlines, well, the USA are out of the Women's World Cup. Dramatic finish against Sweden. They lost on penalties earlier on today. So Sweden into the quarterfinals, as are the Netherlands, who beat South Africa by 2-0. In Camogie, Clare won the Premier Junior final, 3-7 to 1-9 victory over Tipperary at Croke Park at the moment. It's Meath 2-4, Derry 1-9, a 2-point lead for Derry in the intermediate decider. 5 o'clock the throw-in time for Cork against Waterford in the senior final. Rena Buckley will look ahead to that in about a half an hour's time. The Community Shield underway. Arsenal against Manchester City, both teams with strong lineups. In the Championship, Leicester beat Coventry 2-1. Kieran Dewsbury Hall with 2 goals laid on for the Foxes. Leeds trail Cardiff by 2-1 at Elland Road. So not an easy baptism for Daniel Farke so far. Sunderland and Ipswich kick off at 5 o'clock. And so Scotland, we have Hibernian 0, St Mirren 2 at half time here at home. Dundalk against Shelbourne kicking off at 5. Shamrock Rovers also involved at 6 o'clock against Cork City at Tallaght Stadium. So that's what's going on. Keith, Liverpool this season. When I'm thinking about Liverpool, I'm wondering, can they regain the kind of consistency they had the season before last when they reached the Champions League final? They won 2 cups. They reached the last day of the league season. Are you a bit more assured now with the signings of McAllister and Szoboszlai?
Yeah, look, 2 very, very good signings, but I look at the dressing room as a whole, and you look at the likes of Milner walking out, going out, Henderson out, Firmino, Fabinho. And look, I know they're all probably in the latter stages of their career, but just from a dressing room point of view, having Milner around to drive standards, having Henderson around to drive standards, to make sure training is on, everybody's at it and training 100%. You know, I fear for them a little bit that standards might slip, because they seem to me from the outside looking in to be the standard setters. Now, I'm not saying McAllister is going to come in and he's not a good professional, but when things weren't going right, Milner was always there. When things were going a little bit wrong, Henderson was there. He was barking at people, and they've took an awful lot of experience out there. Look at the 2 boys they brought in, especially McAllister. Excellent players. They do improve Liverpool. I expect Liverpool to be an awful lot better than they were last season. I don't think they can be much worse, but yeah, I worry about the dressing room. I hope I'm wrong, but I just think there's an awful lot of experience gone out the door there, and standing setters and leaders. And I look around the Liverpool squad now and I'm thinking, who are the leaders now?
Robertson, maybe. Van Dijk, Alisson.
Yeah, look,
you'd hope Salah would be one of those.
Yeah, well, Salah doesn't seem to be one of them who talks to people. He seems to, he gets the ball, maybe inspire you with something he does. But I think the likes of a Henderson, somebody who barks at people and just makes sure the standards around. I know Van Dijk can do that, but he's a little bit further down the pitch. If it's, say, a striker who's not playing well, it's very hard to get your message across. If somebody's in the middle of the pitch, he can sort of shout at everybody and get around. So, look, I hope I'm wrong. That's just my initial feeling from the outside looking in. But I don't think anybody's seeing Liverpool being as poor as they were last season. So maybe it'll be the reverse. I expect them to be poor and to be really good.
We're expecting Núñez and Gakpo maybe to do more as well this season and to make their mark, I suppose, in Liverpool and become Liverpool players, in inverted commas.
Yeah, look, Núñez especially gets a lot of stick for his finishing ability, but for me, that's one of them things that will come. It's a bigger sign if he's not missing chances and he's not getting chances. You'd be really worried about it. But he is getting chances. I know he's not clinical, but he's playing on the left. Sometimes he's on the right. Sometimes he's through the middle. I like him through the middle. I think he's better when he's back to goal. He's a good holder player. He's agile. He'll run the channels.
Is he a starter for you in the team every week?
I'm not sure. On talent alone, probably not. But I think obviously that will be answered by Jurgen Klopp. That'll be something that's on the training ground. I think it's that close between him, Gakpo, one or two others. So it would come down to who's training the better and who's in better form. But from the outside looking in, I probably not. No.
Jota, Diaz, obviously the picture as well.
I really like Jota, and again, it's not because of his goal scoring ability. We go back to this press and the counter press. When Jota loses the ball, the way he presses people is really, really good. And just keep an eye on next season how many times he wins the ball in the opposition's final third, and Liverpool go and get a chance at a goal from him. He's really, really good at nicking the ball in good areas.
I'm hearing third from you for Liverpool. Am I right? I'm hearing third place.
Yeah, I think they'll be better. I do think they'll be a lot better. Maybe top four. I think top four with the way everybody is strengthened. Arsenal is strengthened. I think City have got better. Manchester United will be in and around. And look at Newcastle as well. I know Newcastle are in Europe, but they've made some good signings with Tonali and Harvey Barnes coming in. That enough? Possibly not enough again with the European competition. They could be shredded a little bit thin, but it depends. I don't think Newcastle are the type of team that'll say, listen, we'll just throw all our eggs in the Premier League basket, because they've waited so long for this European out. And so I think they will have one eye on that. Whether the Premier League suffers, I'm not sure, but really looking forward to seeing Tonali. Really liked him at AC Milan. And Harvey Barnes, seen him lots at Leicester last season, very good player. And yeah, in a forward thinking Newcastle team, he could be very exciting.
Isak is also a player that's got a kind of an individual way of playing the game. He's wiry, he gets himself into good position, scores goals. More to come from him, I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I would think about Isak. A little bit more to come from him. He has showed glimpses. His first game against Liverpool, when he came on, I think, did he start for Newcastle in that game? But he did look like there was something about him. When he plays for Sweden, he looks like he has something. So we seen flashes last season, but again, it's his fourth season in the Premier League, so this one is where we'll really start to take stock of what he's all about.
Tottenham continue to be a soap opera. How patient should their fans be? Because I think it's all about Kane. If Kane is sold or not sold will determine how the narrative of the season goes early on for Ange Postecoglou. I like Ange. I think he's got a great demeanour in terms of his public utterances. Obviously the success at Celtic. I like the way he philosophises about the game. 4-3-3. This wing back thing is going to be consigned to the dustbin, thankfully, because it didn't really work for Spurs, I felt, under Conte. Look, they'll play well, but whether they've got the personnel to do so, I don't know.
Yeah, I would be the same. I think defensively, you could be found out a little
63
bit.
goals they conceded last season. They've got to get people in there.
It's not good enough, is it? And Spurs last season, they lost the games that they didn't play well in, and I know people are going, what sort of statements that? Sometimes as a team you can play badly but just don't lose the game, and Spurs don't seem to have that, I don't know whether you call it backbone or grit, or just, sometimes Manchester City turn up and they're in third or fourth gear, but they just find a way to win.
Spurs went to Southampton, I think they were 3-1 up, and still there was a 3-3 draw, and it was just it was just, I remember looking at kept on scrolling my phone, and
that was when Conte lost the head, wasn't he? Look again,
went to Sheffield United in the cup and lost.
Yeah,
it's at the Spursy inverted commas.
And you would imagine that at that time in the season, it was obvious they weren't going to challenge for the Premier League title. They weren't really doing that anywhere else. So why not have a real go at the cup? And to be knocked out by Sheffield United, it's like that lower league opposition should have been able to put them away. And to go what Roy Keane says, they all got a little bit Spursy towards the end, but. To try and assess Spurs this season, it literally all, I'm saying probably top six if Harry Kane is there. If Harry Kane's not there, if you take them 20 or 25 goals he scored in the Premier League last season, if you take that out of that Spurs team, you're
relying on Richarlison.
Yeah, exactly. Which
and Son to find his form again, because he had a really bad season last year compared to the brilliant heights that he'd set in the previous few seasons. Look, Mauricio Pochettino, former Spurs legend as a manager, has gone into Chelsea. I think he will do really well there. Just how long is it going to take for him to even know what his best team is?
Yeah, and I had a look at the Chelsea ins and outs, and it's just crazy. There's names all over the place, and obviously Chelsea with Thiago Silva coming out last season and saying the dressing room's too big, they had to build an extension. There were so many first team players coming in, and you just think with Graham Potter coming in, 30 odd internationals, how many people must have been knocking on his door on a Monday giving out. So look, the only one with Chelsea, that the only signing they've made is Nkunku, who excites me. I think the rest are just fillers, younger players, goalkeeper Sanchez coming in. But when you look at the likes of the players that's gone out, Kante, Kovacic, Koulibaly, Havertz, Mount, they all would have started for Chelsea last season. So again, when you're looking at the dressing room, there's a huge turnover. Are they all going to gel together? Are they all going to get on? And where's the leader going to come from? Because when a bunch of players come together and they don't really know each other, it's only natural that.
How long does it take, given you played in England, how long does it take to kind of get to get familiar with people? And
well, it all depends on the environment. It depends with the manager. It depends what the players are like. With Sean Dyche, when he first came in, he brought this thing in called like a wheel. So we had an A to Z, and if you did anything wrong, i.e. leaving a bottle on the training pitch, a top, or not doing your weights, you would have to spin, and if you landed on A, it'd be oh no, you have to dance for 2 minutes, silly stuff like that. But it just got everybody on side. K would be karaoke for 2 minutes on the pitch. So V was you had to beat your legs in front of everybody. So just little things. So standards started to get to be drove, and it was all happening from within. So without Sean Dyche cracking the whip, we were policing the dressing room without us even knowing it. So we were trying to catch people for doing things because it was funny. But all of a sudden on a Friday, when we're getting ready to spin the wheel, nobody done a thing wrong all week, because they were afraid of the wheel. So it was just little things like that to bring lads closer together, drive things, police them yourself, because the manager, he's not going to be on the pitch with you. He stands very close, but he's not on it, so we all have to police these things ourselves. So there's little things to make the dressing room come closer, but it's all about individuals and the manager and the environment they're setting.
And how long does it take to get to know a manager and his way of thinking, and what the good way to be around him is and what the not so good way to be around him is?
Well, again, that's down to the individual. When I tried to when I was getting to know Eddie Howe, it took me quite a while, because he's quite, he likes to play the game from back to front. It's quite tactical. I want you here. It's like a game of chess. With Sean Dyche, it's pretty much minimal information. It's get the ball, run past people, cross it, don't let anybody get behind you. Really basic stuff. With Allardyce, it was really basic stuff as well. The only question he would ever ask me at half time and full time was, how many times have you crossed the ball, son? How many shots did you get off? So I knew when I was starting the game, how many crosses am I going to get off, and how many shots am I going to get off, and how many times have I lost the ball. 3 little basic things that to do, and you get to know what Allardyce wants, what Howe wants, what Dyche wants, and it probably over a couple of weeks. But again, it depends on your level of intelligence. It depends on how complicated the manager is, and it depends. Sometimes there's players that like to play a bit of football, there's players that want to go from back to front. So if you have opposite views on the game, sometimes you can be brought kicking and screaming, but ultimately you have to do what the manager wants. So if you're doing a kicking and screaming, it can take a couple of weeks, but if you don't do it, you won't get into the team.
Who was the best manager you played for?
Probably Sean Dyche. I think on the whole, I played for some great managers. Mark Hughes was a brilliant manager. I got a little touch of Graham Souness when I first went to Blackburn. Eddie Howe was very young. I think he was 33 when he got the Burnley job. Really good getting to know him and how he worked. But Sean Dyche, the way he motivated players, the way he looked after them as human beings, the way he brought the families into it as well, he just made us all feel like we were all in it together. And I say it to his face all the time. I say in text messages, you should be a psychiatrist, because the way he taps into your head and gets you to run through brick walls, and he just knows how to motivate you without forcing you to do anything. He's one of the best managers I've ever had, and the human side of him is underrated as well.
19th in the table at Everton when he took over in January. They survived, but they've got it all to do again, because it just seems with the FFP or whatever that they've been a financial basket case the last few years. They're relying on Calvert-Lewin to score goals. Their top scorer in the team last season was Dwight McNeil with 7.
Yeah,
for such a big club, it's sad, really.
It is sad, yeah. But I think this has been happening over the last couple of years. There's been a slow decline in Everton, and like I say, from when I made my Premier League debut there, they were challenging for top 6, top half. They were always a very hard team to play against, but under Lampard in particular, they just felt a bit nice. They felt a bit too easy to play against, a little bit too open when they didn't have the ball. And there's loads of Everton fans over here. A lot of my friends are Everton fans, and the first thing they all asked me when Dyche got the job was, God, Keith, are we going to be all right? When they were saying, well, if we go down, he's the best man to bring us back up. And I was adamant he would keep Everton in the league, because I knew he would go in there and motivate the dressing room. It's hard to describe, because you go into work every day knowing this is going to be tough and this is going to be hard, but you don't fear it. You want to do it for some reason, because he has this balance of fear and love. It's just crazy. I don't know how he gets that balance right, but with me, he hit it absolutely perfectly. And like I say, I have a lot of love for him. And I texted him the other day looking for tickets for the Everton Fulham game on the weekend, and he got back to me. So he's a really nice bloke. There's a lot of love there. And like I said, when I heard about the Dele Alli stuff coming out as well, I was delighted that Sean Dyche is the manager there, because I think it's a match made in heaven for them too, or for Dyche to at least help Dele a bit on the human side.
Yeah, and we kind of talk about, I don't know, you've told your story as well, Keith. We talk about footballers in such a detached way, don't we? Oh, they're this, they're that, and because maybe they earn so much money that, well, he made a terrible mistake here, and we always sometimes forget that they're human beings as well. They are still humans,
Yeah, cool. And look,
Dele Alli story.
A lot of people say that you turn on Sky Sports or you turn on whatever, and you see the lads getting off the bus with their wash bags and going into the dressing room. You see them on the pitch with their iPhones, and you see the interviews, and you think, oh, this seems like a great life. You don't see the abuse you get. You don't see the hard yards and training. You don't see them getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go and have ice baths, eating chicken at 8 o'clock in the morning because it's the right thing to do. Not going out. Well, I never did that. I went out, but in general, players make an awful lot of sacrifices to get there. And there were so many times I was on a football pitch, but mentally I shouldn't have been anywhere near it. And Sean Dyche knew that as well. He has admitted that he had to put me out there knowing I don't know what I'm going to get out of Keith today because of what's going on in his life. Now, fans aren't privy to that, but at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and nobody ever walks onto a football pitch thinking I want to make a mistake today or I don't want to play well. So I get it, they pay their money, they're allowed to have an opinion, they can voice that, but we're all human beings, and there has to be a line that you stop at. You know, you can criticise the performance, you can criticise the player, but when we start going to personal realms, that's when you've overstepped the mark.
It's a cutthroat industry, isn't it? It's really cutthroat over there.
It is, yeah. Especially
the rewards. It's a bit like actors. Like, if you make it, you really make it. But if you don't make it, or
yeah, well, look, anywhere, you know, look, because I was probably a little bit unique, and I spent all my time in Lancashire. I went to Yorkshire, but I played for Sheffield United, I played for Sheffield Wednesday, I played for Blackburn, I played for Burnley, and then I played for Preston. So I played for every rival club. So I just sort of bounced around, and I would go from Blackburn. The fans would love me because it was the next Damien Duff. Didn't quite make it, so I go to Preston. So the Blackburn fans would now hate me because I'm at Preston. The Burnley fans would hate me because I'm at Preston. Then I would go to Burnley, so the Preston fans would hate me, and it was just this circle of, you know, getting abused everywhere I went. But you can't let it bring you down because it's a job. You try and leave it at home, but you know, at the end of the day, they're human. So I know it's difficult, but try and keep it in the back of your head that, you know, these lads are living a life and it's difficult for them. I mean, when I signed for Preston, I had to actually move house because I lived in Blackburn, but because I had played for Blackburn and Burnley, I had to move house. I had to live in Lytham, which is like an old retired village,
a golf area,
just out there. Yeah, so it was one of them places where nobody knew where I was or who I was. So you sort of have to start boxing clever so you don't, you know, fall in with the wrong crowd.
Do you hear the abuse from the stands?
Yeah, you hear little things, little buttes every now and then. The funny, well, not the funniest one, but the only one I can probably say on air is that somebody shouted, I was about to take a corner and I put it down and I took a couple of step backs, and you can hear the normal effing and jeffing and this and that and the Irish, and all I heard was, Treacy's a girl's name. I have a bit nice. Kid gloves, and I thought, well, I'll take that one. That one's not too bad, but yeah, that's probably the only one I can say on air. But the usual effing and jeffing, you know.
Yeah. So Sean Dyche and Everton, and good to see Seamus Coleman. It's funny from an Irish perspective. Got Seamus Coleman signing a new deal. Matt Doherty's in the Premier League. Darragh O'Shea's gone to Burnley. John Egan's back up at Sheffield United. So, funny enough, we have good defenders, and some of them are now in the back in the Premier League.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of good moves for Irish lads over this transfer window. Nathan Collins going to Brentford again. If he plays, great move. Darragh O'Shea going to Burnley, great move.
Just on Nathan Collins first, because I wonder if Ben me any influence in that, because you played with Ben, didn't you, at Burnley, and so did Nathan. You know, now then there might be centre defensive partners.
Yeah, possibly. I think they would complement each other well. They're big, strong centre halves, but they're not the sort of the centre halves that aren't mobile. They can run the channels. If lads want to spin into channels, they can both go and do that. But the big thing for me is just Nathan needs to play games. You know, when he came in, I think we would all now assume he's going to play for Ireland in the upcoming qualifiers in September. So we need to get minutes into him. We need him sharp. We need him at his best, because the bedrock of Ireland's performances are being defensively strong. If we can be defensively strong and limit teams to clean sheets, then we can start putting the emphasis on Evan Ferguson just nicking games 1-0. And you know, I think we can do it defensively. We have the players there, but they need to be playing. We don't want lads on the bench in the Premier League and going a little bit stale, and other lads in the Championship who are full throttle, and then we come up to an international camp and, you know, training's all a little bit disorganised because lads need minutes, other lads need to relax. So hopefully they are going to get minutes, and you know, it all comes together. But
a 6-year contract is promising though, and Thomas Frank seems quite a progressive guy. I think Wolves are a bit of a mess. Lopetegui, I don't know if he wants to be there. This might not be a bad move for Nathan Collins.
Yeah, and to pick up on the Lopetegui thing, I think with Doherty going to Wolves, again, I think it's a great move on paper. He obviously loves the club, spent I think 10 years there before he moved to Atletico, so he knows what he's doing. He's going back there, but I have a feeling in the next couple of months, couple of weeks, whatever it is, Lopetegui will leave Wolves, and I just hope Matt doesn't get lost in the whole melee that, you know, and doesn't play football again, because again, if Matt is fit, he's one of the best right backs in Europe going forward. Defensively, there's question marks, but going forward, we all know what he can give us. So again, from an Irish point of view, we need him with minutes in his legs.
The Burnley story is interesting. Company is somebody that probably has a big future in management based on what he's achieved so far. Darragh O'Shea going there, Josh Cullen's in the team, Obafemi's now no longer a temporary player. He signed a permanent arrangement with Burnley, so I'd hope they'd stay up.
Yeah, of course I do as well. I have a lot of love for the club. Spent 3 years there. I think it's going to be difficult. obviously the time when I was there under Sean Dyche, under Eddie Howe, it's chalk and cheese now. When Vincent Kompany first got the job in the Championship, I was very sceptical, I have to be honest. I thought this is a big name coming in, but how much of the Championship does he actually know? He I don't want to say he was spoiled at Manchester City, but he's played a certain way his whole career, and I wasn't sure if he was going to be tactically astute enough to go down to the Championship and figure it all out. But he took to it like a duck to water. I think it was over 100 points in the Championship, which doesn't happen every season. So really, really good results, played brilliantly. But this season, I think a lot of teams will know what Burnley are going to deal with. They've seen it all before. As we said, in the Premiership, it's a lot more of a tactical battle. So if they can do it in the Premier League, I would be a little bit surprised. But hopefully there's a little bit of a hybrid approach where it's a little bit, back to front, a little bit of play football when we can, and very hopeful that they can do it.
It's a great story from a arc of his career to see Chiedozie Ogbene go from Cork and Limerick to Rotherham, up to now the Premier League at Luton. Whether they stay up or not, he's somebody Rob Edwards obviously admires, and it'd be fascinating to see his progression. Yeah, well, his progression already has been absolutely brilliant, and I have to say, every time I've seen him play for Ireland, look, he's a little bit raw. Maybe his first touch is not as sound as it should be, but when you get him running at people, nobody's comfortable because he's so quick and he's so raw, he's so strong. He gets you on the edge of your seat. He takes people on, and as a right back, when you're going out to the left winger, the right winger, the one thing you don't want him to do is get you in a race, and Ogbene 9 times out of 10 will get you in a race. And I like that about him. When he played against France, he gave Theo Hernandez a horrible time, and that was just from a physical point of view. Theo Hernandez couldn't deal with him. So I think Ogbene has a lot to offer. On paper, again, like all the Irish move, looks a great move, but just don't want to see him stagnate on the bench. If he comes in and plays well, brilliant, stay in the team. But if he has to wait for his opportunity and come in, hopefully he takes it with both hands and he gets minutes again, like we say. Who are you excited about from an Irish perspective? I'm just looking through here. Mikey Johnson's got a back injury at present. He's back with Brendan Rodgers at Celtic, who gave him his debut a few years ago. Adam Ida, we mentioned, scored yesterday. We have Jason Knight moving to Bristol. They won yesterday. Will Smallbone is in the Southampton first team on the basis of Friday. Alan Brown still solid at Preston. Jason Malumbi played for West Brom yesterday. James McLean gone to Wrexham, which is an interesting move. Darragh Lenihan played yesterday. Just going through, Oma Bamadelli was on the bench. Just going through them here, and Bazunu started for Southampton. So look, as you say, I think the key thing is first team football. Who are you excited about maybe seeing develop? The one player that really I want to see develop is Will Smallbone. I think he's been really good the last couple of games for Ireland. We're looking for that player in the centre midfield. The new Wes. The new Wes. That's what we keep saying. The new Wes. But again, I don't want to put too much emphasis on it. But I know West Ham are sniffing around Ward-Prowse, and Ward-Prowse played against Sheffield Wednesday on Friday night, and they won. But if Ward-Prowse leaves, I think Smallbone he won't benefit. If he does stay at Southampton, then Will Smallbone can learn from him. He's an English international. He's a Premier League player, all in all, for me. So if Ward-Prowse stays there, Will Smallbone will come on leaps and bounds in that team. If not, it could just stunt them a little bit in the Championship. Yeah, there's a row, it seems, at the moment at West Ham between David Moyes and the director of football. I believe that Moyes wanted Ward-Prowse and the director didn't want Ward-Prowse, and they're a strange club. As Tim Stuyton opposed the attempt to sign the West Ham midfielder. So look, it could end up in quite an odd situation where West Ham win a Conference League and win their first trophy since 1980 at a senior level, and then Moyes is gone. Well, I don't know. It's a strange one, but like I say, I think if Ward-Prowse sticks about, like Smallbone playing games next to him, imagine just having him speaking. He's been there, done it, scored. I think he scored more goals in the Premier League now than David Beckham. His set piece delivery is brilliant, and the one thing that Smallbone is probably worried about is that I think West Ham have just accepted a bid from Atalanta for Samaka. So I think it's around 30 million for Samaka from Atlanta. So if West Ham get that 30 million, I would assume that. So if Ward-Prowse goes, what would Smallbone lose out on? Is it just the guidance in the middle? Is it physically? Just the guidance, and how, like, there's going to be times when Southampton are under the cosh when they're not playing well, winning the season, and just having Ward-Prowse next to you saying, it's okay, this is just temporary, it's going to be a couple of minutes, we just need to maintain, and just know how to box clever and
in certain times. And like I said, he's an English international. His set piece delivery is unbelievable. He's a better player than people give him credit for. A lot of people do put him just down as a set piece expert. He's better than that. So like I said, if Smallbone has him speaking to him for the season, you will see the difference between last season and the end of next season if Ward-Prowse is there with him.
Shane Keegan was here yesterday, the Cove Ramblers manager, wasn't too optimistic about us qualifying for the Euros. Can we feel that it's gone, the campaign? Do you think, just given the opposition we have, France, the Netherlands and Greece and that, do you think it's all over?
Yeah, I thought it was, if we finished third in that group, we'd have been doing really, really well, given what happened against the Greeks. Yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle, but sometimes I think it's all relative, and sometimes we played well against the French, but we lost the game against the Greeks. It was a huge disappointment. Again, we've Holland now coming up soon. Very, very tough team. But again, we can afford to lose these games because I think we all think we're trying to build blocks into something.
Are you positive, I suppose, about the national team in the next few years, or are you worried?
It's a bit of both. Sometimes I take a step forward. Like I see us in the French game and I think, okay, if we can be that defensively solid and match that work rate in every single game, then there's an avenue here where we can beat teams. But then we turn up against Greece and we've had 10 days in Turkey, and you're thinking, we're 1-0 down in 10 minutes, we've conceded 10 corners. This looks like a team who hasn't met each other, never mind it's been together for the last 10 days. So every now and then I take a step forward, then I end up with 2 steps back. I seem like I've been doing that for about 2.5 years now.
You'd be on the dance floor, you'd be moonwalking.
One step, you're doing the hokey pokey. But yeah, I just don't know. I do think it was total football at one stage. Then we've adopted this little bit more of a hybrid approach, but little mistakes, like was it Cullen who gave the ball away to France, against France. If we don't do that, we're getting a very decent draw. So there is a way for us to go and win games, but again, like I say, I keep going 1 step forward, 2 steps back, so I'm not sure where I am at the minute with them.
Where are you on the Premier League champions? Is it Manchester City? We're watching them here against Arsenal, still goalless in the Community Shield, 27 minutes gone.
Yeah, look, I don't think there's a lot on it. I think lads are running around there just making sure they don't get injured, but it looks like the same old Manchester City. John Stones is popping into the box, midfield.
The box roll, that's the
box midfield, the Trent Alexander role, but Kyle Walker's there. They look solid enough. Arsenal now are keeping the ball, but look, I do think this is number 1 and 2 in the league next season. But I still think there's a gap between everybody and City, if I'm totally honest.
Yeah. Any surprises in the Premier League maybe this season, or that you could see? Any teams that might surprise, or any players that might surprise? Anybody you like that, there's definitely some players I liked. Eze last year, Brennan Johnson, I really like watching him play for Forest. And
yeah, well, like I say, I like Anthony Elanga going to Forest. I liked him when he was coming off the bench for United. It looked like he could change a game. So if he's starting at Forest next season, like I expect him to, then I think we could get a bit out of him. And Nkunku coming in as well at Chelsea, I think he's a French international, very good young player. And he was done very, very good business under the radar. Aston Villa with Yuri Tillemans, Pau Torres, really good signings. Diaby as well, yes. So, and that's all down to Unai Emery. I don't think Aston Villa get them players. They might get Tillemans, but I don't think they get Torres and Diaby if Unai Emery's not at that club.
They're going to win big matches. I don't know where they can finish, maybe 6th, 7th in the league, but they're the kind of team that City could go to Villa Park and they beat them.
Yeah, but that's the thing with Aston Villa now. They're a real powerhouse at the minute. And under Unai Emery, I knew when he got the job, I didn't know how he'd finish the end of the season with Aston Villa, but I knew if he can get to the summer, the contacts he has all over Europe, he will start bringing real quality in, and we've seen that now. And I expect Tillemans, obviously there's very little risk with him, having played for Leicester for so many years. Torres, brilliant centre half, and Diaby, really exciting.
Keith Treacy, brilliant insight. Thanks so much for coming in for our football preview, and enjoy the Premier League season. We'll talk very soon.
Cheers.
Keith Treacy there. We're going to cross live to Croke Park now after the break to build up to the All-Ireland Senior Camogie Championship final between Cork and Waterford with Rena Buckley.
Off the ball on News Talk.
This weekend on News